Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's On at Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be sharing our top 10 series of the year that's been available on Disney Plus. We're also going to be throwing in some of our things that we didn't like as well. So before we go into any of that, make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube. You can also find us on all the different social medias. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com, bookmark favorite. Hope you all had a fantastic Christmas and hopefully you'll have a nice new year. So just a quick note, we are recording this one literally just before Christmas, and so I don't think there's actually any more series out. So that's that. There's nothing else out this in the next week, so we're good from the point of view of recording.
There's nothing else out, but there are a couple of series that are still in progress that are eligible for this list.
Yes, which I have seen those episodes, so therefore
I have not. So it's entirely possible that by the end of the year, my opinion may change on some. I'm not expecting that to be the case.
No.
Yeah. So
no, it's going to be interesting. So we're going to go through this list, then in no particular order. There's no ranking system. If we've got them on the same list, then we're just going to talk about them. Also to note, a lot of mine are going to be Star originals, which are probably on Hulu in the United States, but here in the UK, they're Disney Plus shows. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Star has just been churning out some amazing series here in the UK. Disney Plus has just had one good show after another. Every month, like one or two shows.
And several of these are going to be from Hulu on our side too. So my list is not exclusively Disney Plus. I did cheat to use stuff that is on Star or Hulu over here.
Yes, there's just so much stuff. I probably could have done a top 20 list. There was that many.
Last week I personally had a bit of a hard time filling out the movie list. This was a much easier list, and in fact, I had to go in the other direction where I built out a list and then had to start trimming from it, as opposed to here's the list. Oh, that's not nearly enough. Let me start adding things.
Yeah, I put my list together, and then it was like, take that out. I haven't got room for that. I haven't got that. Did I like that more than that? And yeah, that's good. That's good when you reach the end of the year and you got that much stuff to talk about. So I'm going to start off with some Marvel. Moon Knight. I love this series. This was like my favorite of the Marvel series. I thought this was it's the only one of Marvel on the list. I love this one. Just something about it. I don't know if the fact of it being set in Britain. Oscar Isaac was fantastic in it. I love the whole Egyptian aspect to it. I could have done with not having I thought the finish could have done with an extra episode or two to flesh it out a little bit more. I love the craziness of the fact of I just remember because it's one of those weird situations of watching a few episodes and then they stop, and I had to wait like 6 weeks for the new episode, and I just didn't know where it was going, and it just left me thinking. And yeah, it was an amazing show. I love this one. This was one of my favorite. Like when I had to think of this list, this was just like, instant, like, oh yeah, that's on it. Didn't even have to think twice about it.
Yeah, so this was on my list. It's one of the ones that got trimmed, but it was one of the last ones that got trimmed off. And what ultimately caused me to do that was I wish they had leaned a little bit more into the mystery of the unreality. What is real, what is not real, especially if you're coming from the comics like I am. I know you have not read Moon Knight comics, but his books are almost always trippy. There's almost always an element of what is real, what is not. Can we trust what we see on the page, what we can, or do we have to kind of read between the lines? I wish they had leaned into that a bit more, but I also recognize that might have been a bit tough because they're trying to sell this character to a lot of people who've never heard of him before. But yeah, in a different year, this would easily be in the top 10. This is definitely in the top 15. Oscar did a great job, the acting all around. And Ethan Hawke, I wish they had kind of leaned a little bit more into his character. And again, I said this last week, I'll say it again. For most Marvel films, stop killing your villains, please.
Yes. No, this one I love this one. This was such a great series, from the music, everything about it. It was just an amazing thing. I mean, I was lucky enough I got invited up to a special premiere at the London Museum, and got to see like Oscar and stuff, and watching it on a big screen, it did feel like a movie. And ironically, I was watching it a second time then, and it was just like, I mean, I've seen that first episode 4 times. So it's just like, I just loved it. I thought this was such a great series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was definitely one of the MCU highlights of the year.
So what else is on your list?
I'm going to go in a completely different direction. We're going to go with the Mysterious Benedict Society. Season 2 may not have been up to the standards of season 1, but I did enjoy this series overall. They spent a little too long on the boat, a little too long on the Zeppelin, although you got to interview the designer for those.
Yeah.
So at least their work got to be shown off quite a
Yeah.
bit. That said, really enjoyed season 2. They set up a very obvious hook for season 3. Don't know if that's going to happen at this point. I hope it does, but
I hope they do, and maybe like merge the last books together and kind of
You're right.
Finish it on maybe season 3 and go and plan to finish it, because that's what Netflix is bad at doing. But it just generally just like hopefully, I'm gonna be honest, it was not even in my top 20 because
I didn't expect it to be, honestly.
I really enjoyed season 1. Season 2 was just a little bit like, come on, let's get going. It was a lot of like, we could have really kind of skipped over like 3 or 4 episodes of this with like a montage and just kind of it was a little bit stretched out. I enjoyed it. I definitely would say, you know, if season 3 dropped tomorrow, I would be straight in. I'd be straight in on it. But I didn't enjoy it in the same way as that first season.
Yeah, and it is not as good as season 1. Season 1 had a much better feel to it. But this is still in my top 10 for this year. And if you've been sleeping on the Mysterious Benedict Society, I definitely highly recommend it, especially if you like Wes Anderson films. It's very, very much in that style.
Okay, so another series that came out this year on Hulu in the US, Disney Plus around the world, was The Dropout, with which is all about building this like technology of that you didn't have to do diabetic tests. And basically it's a woman where she just conned everyone because she essentially couldn't, like, she wanted to be so successful and just assumed that it would come, the technology would and obviously, I mean, she's ended up going down in real life. I was fascinated with this one. This was like a episode would come out and just like, yeah, we're gonna watch it tonight. Just like, yeah, this was for me like one of the best series of the year. I absolutely adored this one. Amanda, who played, I can't think of her name now, and I've completely got drawn a blank. But I'd never heard of this story either, because it hadn't made. I don't remember it really making the news over here. So all of this was kind of a brand new story, and you're just like going, and it was a little bit similar to like the Dropout, sort of Dope Sick from last year, of that kind of the US medical system of like learning rather than from like Grey's Anatomy. I'm kind of like feeling that thing of like the word of tech. I was fascinated with this series.
It was a very, very good series. This is on my list as well. Extremely well done. If anything, it's almost too kind to the main character. Yeah. Kind of like they kind of blurred the lines of like, is she aware of what's going on? Is she not? Obviously, they answer that question towards the end, but there's several episodes where you get the impression that she's just been shielded by other people, like Sunny, from what's going on with the company. The real life story is she was actively involved in a lot of this, and in fact, she is much worse in real life than she is portrayed in the show. But this is top tier. This is a must watch, and it's infuriating, but in it, you know, the ways it's supposed to be. It's infuriating because you follow this story and it's like, how did they let this happen at every single step of the way? And of course, as you said, the trial was going on. She has been sentenced after the series came out a couple months ago. I believe Sunny is being sentenced this week.
All right.
I might be off on the timeline a little bit, but I think actually by the time this airs, I think he will have been sentenced. Either way, it's crazy because it's happening right now as well.
It was fascinating. I absolutely love this one. So what else did it make your top 10, by the way?
It was, yes, this was in my top 10. So that's 2 on my side. But I think this on your list. The next one for me, this is it's still in progress, so it's possible that it could drop off if there's like a quality drop off, but it's Willow right now. No, you were like, is it National Treasure? No, it couldn't be that
I
one.
was a little bit like, I don't think it's National Treasure because
It's definitely not National
yeah,
Treasure. That's going on the other end of the list, the bad part of the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah. So Willow,
Yes.
what do you think of it?
Well, obviously it's in the top 10, so I'm enjoying it quite a bit. This has been a good year for fantasy stories between House of the Dragon over on HBO, Ring of Power, if you're a big Tolkien fan, I suppose, but then Willow kind of ending out the year. And I've just been really engaged with it. The characters have gone well for me. There are a couple of blips here and there that aren't the best. That I'm not too fond on, like them killing off the elderly knight in one of the early episodes. But went into expecting kind of like a happy-go-lucky fantasy, very lighthearted. And while it's not House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, it definitely has bite to it, and it catches you by surprise at certain points.
I'll be honest. I am really enjoying the series. I think it's that kind of situation. I need to see how it lands.
Yes,
if it hits the landing, that's the kind of the issue for me right now. So it's that kind of weird thing of I feel like it's got a little bit. I feel like it got one or too many characters, but it'll be interesting to see how they go. So yeah, and I think I'm just thinking this week's episode was good. This week's episode was good with the escape and stuff. So yeah, no, it was really good. So I can see why it's on there. And
yes,
if I was doing a US only show list, this would be on it. But unfortunately, there's just so much from Star that just
this has definitely been a year of so many things to choose from. That we've had an abundance of very good shows. We could both easily do a top 20 list this year, and still have things that are on my list and not on your list, and the other way around as well. The one major complaint I have with Willow is they have not done a good job of setting up the villain, even up to this point in the story where we're at when we're recording. I know a lot of it hinges on the movie. I've seen the movie. They still needed to establish it better here.
It's a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of Lord of the Rings, the original Lord of the Rings, where it's like just hinted at is bad, and something's and then we all get distracted on the quests on the middle. A little bit. Yeah, it's a really good show. I am enjoying it, so I can see why it's on your list. It just didn't make mine.
And again, it's not over yet. It's entirely possible we get to like the second week of 2023, and I'll be like, I regret putting this on. Look at that content drop off. But it could also go the other direction where like this should be higher on my list based on how it ended. We'll have to wait and see.
I just wish more people were watching it and getting in on it, because it is a really good series. I love the fantasy element. There's a few things I would have liked them to have moved away from the modern aspect of it. I would have preferred it to have been more like old-fashioned rather and less American in some ways. With like, it was just very weird. I remember like on one of the episodes where it sort of went into Enter the Sandman at the end.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
I've actually enjoyed the covers that they've done.
They've been really good, but
they've been really good. But yeah, it was definitely a wait. What? What is this playing? And they've been doing it. There've been other covers. I mean, none like Enter the Sandman, but they're ending the episodes on these kind of interesting covers of popular songs. And like, how does this connect into Willow, which is otherwise a straight fantasy series? This is not Princess Bride, where it's a guy narrating the story to his sick, nephew or something like that. This is a fantasy story entirely within the fantasy universe. I'm not sure where these songs are coming from, but I'm enjoying them anyway.
I think one of the things as well I'm enjoying it is because while Willow is obviously an established film, because it's not been touched for 30 odd years, it kind of feels new. And the story is so disconnected from the original one. I'm enjoying this one too.
Yeah, in regards to like connecting back with the original, the only disappointment is, of course, Val Kilmer is not involved for obvious reasons. He would not be able to, but it would have been great. There's still a chance that he cameos at some point in some capacity, but that would have been nice if he had been healthy enough to do that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty good. My next one is this again was like list straight on it. The Bear. This one debuted on Disney Plus over here in the UK. I think it was August. We got a little bit of a delay over here. Now, for me, one of the things is I ran a seaside kiosk selling burgers and stuff. So I was no way in the. I was making sandwiches, pretty much basically baking sandwiches, and the arguing with like your family, some of the aspects of like the health inspector coming, problems with the equipment breaking down, getting enough money to buy suppliers. There were some aspects of this which were definitely way off, not from my. But there was so much of this here I could relate to from a personal level of working in the industry that it had an element of realism, but it also had a human touch with him with his father. There's a few things that, like the ending and stuff, was a bit weird with it, but the relationship between all the family and just him wanting. I just really enjoyed this series from top to bottom. This was this was an easy watch for me.
I have not seen this one. It's been out on FX for a long time. I knew we would not be talking about it, and there were other things coming out at the time that took higher priority because we would be talking about them. But I am adding this to the list of things that I need to watch in 2023 if I can find the time.
Yeah, I think The Guardian actually listed this as the #1 show of their year.
It's got very positive word of mouth. So
and it's getting a second season.
It is. So I can't talk to it personally, but it is something I am planning to watch here in 2023. I'm going to be on a lot of planes, at least in the early part of this year. So I'm going to be loading my tablet up with things to watch. I think this will be one of the ones I add for some early flights.
That's cool. Okay, so what else was on your list?
Let us see. Let's go with kind of the big one. I'm pretty sure this is on your list too. Andor, Star Wars Andor. This honestly, if we were ranking them top 10, this would probably be #1 on the list in general. This was just an all-around fantastic series. It had a different vibe from other Disney Plus Star Wars shows like The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Much more grounded, much more gritty. The whole thing just feels top quality, top production, great acting, story's really good. Not much else to say about it. This is just an all-around fantastic series.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I love the prison break episodes. I really enjoyed the heist episodes as well. They were good.
Episode 6, the culmination of the heist sequence is far and away my favorite, but that's not to lower the other ones.
I think for me, the prison episodes were peak. Those were the ones I loved the most. This was a fantastic series. It was grounded. It was gritty. It felt like it was aimed at, at adults. It wasn't aimed at kids. I loved the little robot. I'm so sad with that one little thing.
He got kicked over.
It
was tragic.
I think this is that kind of thing. Like, if you want a serious element of Star Wars, this is it. I could have done with a little bit more. I wouldn't say fan service from the point of view of going straight down like Obi-Wan and the Mando. I feel like looking at it now, if I was if they're filming the second season right now, I would be inclined to go, can you put a couple of quick things in it to give us a little bit of a bump? Just like I mean, I love like seeing Saw Gerrera in there and a few, but this was such a great show. It was it was a very serious show. You kind of watched it and it definitely it's that kind of thing of going, they really leveled up that quality for it. Compare this to like the Book of Boba Fett. It's just like night and day in terms of how they did this.
Yeah, and Book of Boba Fett will not be on either of lists as far as I know.
No, I didn't got no other Star Wars ones on my list.
Well, not to narrow it down too much, I do have one on my list, but but it's not Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, this is top quality, and even if you take the Star Wars name away from it, it's still top quality. The storytelling, the themes, the acting, the atmosphere, the way they shot it, the whole thing is just. I know it's not possible for them to do every series at this level because of how much it costs and how much work goes into it. But man, if they could keep this level going for at least a couple of series per year, they'd be top streaming service easily.
It's kind of difficult now because I can see that there's going to be some arguments going on about the fact of this show was amazing. The critics love it. Everyone that's watched it loved it, but it didn't get the audience. So therefore, the business side of it is to be like they like lightsabers and cameos. It's just like we got to try and balance it a little bit.
I am hoping that in season 2 we will get a couple of cameos, but again, I don't want it to be like Bad Batch cameo of the week. Yeah. Let's just throw this character in because Filoni really wants to mess around with playing with Cad Bane or something like that. But cameos that make sense and fit within the story, certainly. Like I don't want like other characters from Rogue One to show up except for K2SO. He makes sense as a cameo, obviously, but. Just a random appearance of, there's 13-year-old Luke Skywalker or something.
I would have really liked to seen them use the X-wings. Saw Guerrero use those X-wings because I've got like them for the X-wing game. It just would have been nice to have seen something like that, a little bit more space stuff.
I suspect that they might be setting some of that up for season 2. We do have that final shot with the Death Star. Obviously, the Death Star will not be part of season 2 in as much as like the looming threat. But it's entirely possible that we will have stuff involving it kind of tangentially, and there may be some space stuff going on as well.
It's top tier. It's definitely top tier on that one. So let's now skip over to my another choice. So this one is going to be a little bit more controversial.
I can guess what it is.
And this one was really kind of like, okay, this one really pushed the boundaries, people. Pam and Tommy. So this one came out early in the year. This one was like the internet was like, especially on the social medias, was just like, this can't be on Disney Plus. This can't be on Disney Plus. This was like, and it was the only thing of the year where they really put that star logo on the advert it was advertised on TV. I mean, I thought this was especially when you got past, I would say once you got past like episode 3, where you started getting into the story of the impact the tape being stolen and going public and then trying to deal with it, the effect it had on Pamela. I thought the acting in this one was amazing of it all. This was like one of those shows of like, I want to watch the next episode. And thankfully, I was able to binge it a bit because of how Disney gave it to it a bit early. But this was one of those shows where I'd never liked Seth Rogen in anything. This is the one thing where I'm like, he's really good in this series.
Absolutely slimy, just completely slimy in it.
Yeah, but also you could kind of get him. You could get why he was so annoyed at Tommy. I thought this was such a top level like TV series. The whole sausage party thing. It was
the monologue.
The monologue. Yeah, that was the one bit where it was like went a little bit too far. But I thought this was a great series. This was a really good one.
I trimmed this one off the list. It was on mine. It's not here, but fantastic series. Last week we talked about how Sebastian Stan has been doing all sorts of wacky stuff, and this is another one of those. Him as Tommy is fantastic, and I hope he continues to get roles and gets to explore all these weird things that he's doing. But this is a really good one. I can understand even in the UK why people would be like, this is a bit much for Disney Plus. It was on Hulu over here, but don't watch this one in front of your kids. But if you want something that's absolutely wacky and crazy and very adult, this is one for you.
It was a really good series. I really enjoyed that one.
If I remember correctly, the creative team for this is also involved with Welcome to the Chippendales, which is currently airing.
So that one is Welcome to Chippendales is currently that's scheduled to come out on Disney Plus here in the UK on the 11th. Now, so it goes into 2023, and I want to see how they stick the landing because I've seen some of the episodes. Love it.
The only reason we haven't the only reason we haven't talked about Welcome to Chicken Dales is because the release schedule is completely off the charts. You guys are getting it at a different time way over here, and it just wasn't worth the effort. Just to be clear, since we talked about Rescue Rangers last week, this is not those Chip and Dales. This is the other Chip and Dales. So do not watch with the kids.
Yeah, it's just really good. So what else was on your list this week?
Let me double check. You know what? I alluded to it, so I'll just throw it out there. This is the other Star Wars series on it. It was on the list. It was off the list. It was on the list. This was right on the edge. I decided to stick with it. It's Obi-Wan. It was not as great as it should have been. Obviously, we went into this as like, this is the Star Wars thing of the year, and it had its ups and downs, but overall I enjoyed it enough to get it onto here. There were some fun cameos. There were some fun stories. There are some characters I definitely want to see again. It was really good to see Hayden Christensen back in the role as Darth Vader. I feel like that was kind of a bit of a redemption for him, considering how badly he got treated during the prequels. Of course, it was great to see Ewan McGregor in the role. It was not a perfect series. It probably should have been 3 episodes with a lot of this kind of trimmed out. I enjoyed it enough. A lot of it's nostalgia goggles. A lot of it is that kind of Star Wars edge to it. I am a huge Star Wars fan, so I will acknowledge this probably should have been trimmed, but I liked it well enough.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It didn't make my list. The thing is, for me, is this was a bit like they could have kidnapped Leia and taken her to the Inquisitor area, and they could have skipped the whole thing of them on that city, of him capturing. To kidnap her twice just seemed a little bit overkill in the 6 episodes. It was just like you could have kidnapped the one and just done the story, and we didn't need that whole middle bit. I enjoyed it. It was that kind of thing. I didn't need it. It was better than Book of Boba Fett, but
that's not a high bar to cross.
Yeah, well, other than the Mandalorian episode, because that was fantastic. I love that one.
Mandalorian season 2.5 was excellent. Book of Boba Fett was not. I totally get this will not be on a lot of people's. I will fully 100 acknowledge that some of this is just Star Wars kind of pushes it over the edge for me. I enjoy it. It's still on the list, and I will keep it there. But what's next up for you?
Okay, so this one's again another FX series, which is very, very heavy. It was not an easy watch.
I know which one this is. Yeah.
It was not an easy one. It was Under the Banner of Heaven. This was a fantastic series. It dropped on Disney Plus over the summer. Again, it was a little bit delayed for some reason compared to the US release. I thought it was fascinating. The whole thing of religion, it kind of was a little bit like with the Eyes of Tammy Faye, which he was also with Andrew Garfield in. Just an insight for me into like Mormonism and the life, just learning about it and the inner conflict with him. It was not an easy watch. It was not I wouldn't say it was an enjoyable show. But I was fascinated. I was like, I had to watch it.
This was an excellent series. Very dark, very emotional, and I'm sure for someone who has not grown up near Mormons, very eye-opening into what their at least part of their culture is like. Obviously, this is kind of the extreme end and the very dark end of the culture. They're not all like this. Be very clear about that. But this was extremely well done. Andrew Garfield is fantastic in it. Again, this was one that was kind of like on the edge for me. And in another universe, I picked this instead of Obi-Wan easily.
I think for me, it was that kind of feeling of like, I want to watch. I wanted to keep watching it. It was a show that I had to take a little bit longer to watch. It was that kind of thing. Like, one episode a week for this is enough because it was quite heavy. It wasn't like another show where you binged it in one day kind of thing. I'll watch like 3 or 4 episodes. This was just too heavy for that. But I really fantastic grounded series. I loved it.
And it's got a lot of actors and actresses in it that have popped up in other shows and movies this year. Sam Worthington is in it from Avatar. Daisy Edgar Jones is in it. Wyatt Russell, from Fresh. Wyatt Russell from
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Thank you. Yes, and of course Andrew Garfield from Spider-Man and so forth.
Spider-Man.
This is an excellent series. It is extremely heavy. And it's based on a true story. Again, I don't know how much of it is exaggerated for the purposes of storytelling, but it's a rough watch, but well worth. And it's only like 7 episodes, I think.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing as well. Of like, it really. This is where for me, the addition of like what like when people talk about like quality TV from like Disney stuff, this stuff gets a bit lost because of the branding kind of thing of. But for me, like FX is just for me is and like some of these original shows from like Hulu and stuff that they have been top. You can see with my list of just how it just stacks up with like I can't put these Disney Plus shows in the same level when I'm looking at like these are just they're all on Disney Plus, they're all exclusive here in the UK. You're just like I can't, and then even that, I mean, there was a few other shows as well. It was just like The Old Man was one. The only reason it's not on here is because I've still got like 1 episode to go. And I was like, I can't put it on there till I've kind of seen the whole thing.
The Old Man is not on mine for 2 reasons. One, there were some acting ticks with, what's his name? The main character.
William, not William. No. Oh,
God, totally Obadiah Stane from Iron Man.
Jeff Bridges.
Thank you, Jeff Bridges. There were some acting ticks that were bothering me in the way he was acting, and then also the ending. And not to spoil it, it's a very abrupt ending, and I didn't even realize it was the ending. I was like, okay, next week we'll get the conclusion, and then season 2, and then like, oh wait, no, that was it. So the ending really was very unsatisfying to me. So that kind of bumped it off the list. It's otherwise a very solid series, though, with some great cinematography in it at the very least. But it's not on the list, so let's move on.
So what else was on your list?
I'm going to put one more here that I don't think you're going to agree with, and probably a lot of people won't as well. And that's my MCU entry, which will be She-Hulk: Attorney at Law. This show really clicked with me. I enjoyed it. There were 1 or 2 episodes in the middle that weren't quite as strong as the others, and I could see how people were kind of dragging with it. Also, it had a completely different feel from all the other MCU shows, going Monster of the Week instead of, or Legal Case of the Week, as it were, instead. I know it's not going to click with most people. I really enjoyed it. I loved the ending, just kind of completely snarky, in your face, defy all expectations in an entertaining way. So this is my MCU entry, and even without the MCU, it's still on there. I hope there's a lot more of this to come.
It's really because I actually enjoyed this series. So I kind of was like, I like this show. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed the humor. The visual effects were a bit dodgy here and there. But if I was making a US list, this would be on it. If this would be on, I enjoyed She-Hulk. I also enjoyed Miss Marvel. But again, the quality of shows just meant that these just the middle bits. But I really enjoyed She-Hulk. So I agree with you, just not on my list. It was on the trim list, I think. It would have been in my top 20.
And it generated a lot of controversy. But then when you really dug into it, it was a lot of guys who felt like they were attacked by the show. And just as a hint, if you felt you were attacked by the show, you probably were, and you need to re-examine your priorities. That said, there are legitimate concerns that people had about it. We don't want to hit, oh, you just didn't like it because the messaging. That no, there are legitimate reasons to dislike it. But for me, I enjoyed it all the way through, and I'm very excited for more of this.
Yes, I'd love. I just wish to get out a second season, because it's like same thing with Miss Marvel. I would like to see more of it, and Moon Knight. Okay, so for me, so I'm gonna go for a bit of a different one again. This one was the first British series drama, and it was kind of a weird kind of like comedy action drama series, Wedding Season. I really enjoyed this series. I loved the idea of Disney getting some British comedy on here, and Wedding Season for me, it just hit. It was just so, it felt so fresh, especially I think because as well of watching all these, like, you got the it's American this, you got the American TV shows, and then suddenly to get something that feels so British, and there was still an element of Americanism in it, but I just really enjoyed it. It was an easy watch, just binge through the lot. Yeah, I love this show. I thought it was fantastic.
I honestly know very, very little about this show. I've not seen it. It's not on my list, but not on my list of things to see. But yeah, no, let's bring in more content like this. Let's get more UK content.
Well, I'm gonna just slightly talk in here.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a new show coming out in a couple of weeks called Extraordinary, a 8-episode series all about a group of people that everyone in the world has a superpower except for this girl. So we're getting 8 episodes. While the the social media embargo has meant I've been able to say I watched the entire series in one afternoon. Wow. All 8 episodes. It is kind of like The Boys meets Derry Girls. It is.
That's not a combination I would have figured out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Derry Girls, kind of with all the humor, lots of British, like Irish jokes and stuff. And it's so funny watching everyone's comments and stuff, getting so caught up on the superhero element. And going, it's like this anime, and it's like, no, it's not. It's a British sitcom with superpowers. It's like, it's so, yeah. So that's one that technically in next year's list, but I love that show. I thought that was fantastic. So
I'll have to look forward to that one.
I'll be talking about that one in a couple of weeks when I can do a full review of it. But yeah, so I just wanted to throw that one in with wedding season, and just like, yeah, keep a lookout for that one as well. I loved, it's kind of that thing as well. And wedding season was that feeling of just feeling fresh and different, and I love that about this show.
Yeah, I will not probably be watching wedding season. However, Extraordinary does sound very good, and I remember seeing the first trailer for that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Is that on Disney Plus here? Or is that
it's going to be on? It's going to be on Hulu because it's actually a lot more racy and sweary than the trailer makes out.
It's a little more Hancock versus say what was the one Encanto. So
yeah, everyone comparing it to Encanto, and it's like no, you guys, this trailer's taking you way off. But no, so nevertheless, so what else was on your list?
So I'm going to go to a different portion of Europe for this one, right across the way from you. This is called Parallels, which I think flew under a lot of people's radar. It's a French show, 6 episodes, I think. Very, very similar to some of Stephen King's work, actually. And this is about some kids who have superpowers, kind of. And it involves going back and forth between these 2 parallel realities and trying to reunite the kids. And in one reality, half the kids don't exist. In the other reality, the other half of the kids don't exist, and seeing how it goes. We only talked about it for 1 week. And I think part of that is while you can watch it in English, I think it is dubbed. This is in French with subtitles is the main way that it's presented. And I know subtitles are difficult for you.
I got to see it a little bit. And first off, my dogs wouldn't shut up when the opening scene, to the point where I couldn't actually like watch. And yeah, subtitles. This show just was like, no, I just checked straight out because it was just. I tried twice to watch it and just couldn't get into it. Yeah,
which is understandable, and subtitled shows are always going to be kind of a tricky issue. Some people just don't do them at all, and Disney has been releasing more and more of them. We had Snowdrop, which was a Korean show. We had Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, which was a Japanese show, both of which did not have dub options. They are strictly original language plus subtitles. It's not on my list, but Sumo Do, Sumo Don't has actually been surprising to me.
Yeah, I haven't even checked. One of the ones, it's another French one, was Ozzykin. That was fantastic. This one was a really good series.
This is the first I'm hearing about this one, honestly.
This one is for me. Again, it's a little bit more. It's all about a kid getting beaten up to death and the police trying to cover it up. It was based on true story. So that one was a really good one. And again, that was hit the point for me.
Right. And as we go forward, especially into 2023, on both Disney Plus and Hulu, we can start to expect more and more of these shows, which will be subtitled only, or maybe, if you're lucky, dubbed poorly into English. So we'll be discussing them more. But yeah, Parallels. It's 6 episodes. If you don't mind subtitles, I think it does have a dub option available. I did double check on that, and I think it does. I really enjoyed it. It's the genre for me, but I also really like stuff like Tenet and Memento and other Christopher Nolan films, which I know are not really your
I didn't mind,
your thing.
Tenet.
I'm actually surprised. I thought you weren't going to like Tenet, but if you like those kind of movies, particularly the Christopher Nolan ones, Parallels, give it a shot. It's got a lot of the same feeling of like playing around with time, playing around with what happens in certain situations, and not being fully aware of what's going on either side of the timeline. So it's a good, fun French show.
Yeah, that's cool. Right. So up for me next was one. This was a little bit tricky because I was very torn on whether or not this one was going to make the shot or not.
I see what you did there.
This was Big Shot season 2. This one dropped. Got the whole lot at once. Now, luckily, I was able to watch a little bit earlier, so it meant I could kind of catch up on. This one really caught me. Of like, there were so many aspects of this series. I was just like, oh, this is. It was much more mature. You know, they were dealing with some of the issues, some of the real issues. They could have fluffed it out a little bit more. I have a feeling that it's done now. I don't really see it returning. The way it kind of got released, and there's been no talk of anything about it for over 3 months. And the fact that even was it John had talked about the idea that it was pretty much cancelled the first season, and he managed to convince them to make the second one. I was full of heart, full of, you know, there was a couple of occasions of it was hard because this one, I'm not gonna lie, it kept switching in and out between this and the Kardashians, because I really enjoyed the Kardashians, and I know that a lot of people will not agree with that one,
but
I really enjoyed watching this show every week, and it was like, oh, Big Shots, like, oh, it was like I really just enjoyed the show. It just hit me, you know, the emotionally and just the story and stuff. And as a Disney Plus original, it was like, oh, we just need again. It wasn't like in that zone of being aimed at kids. And I don't know. I just thought I thought it was charming.
It's a good series. It was on my trim list here. Could have made it onto the list or not. The main thing against it was there and then it was gone, and it kind of fell out of our collective conscious very, very quickly. And
they did a binge drop on it, and I think it was literally just called just dump it. It was just dump it and go.
I don't think we're going to get season 3 for this, which is too bad. It is a solid show. It manages to keep the quality up. It even ditched some of the cringier elements of season 1, like the whole the English teacher play, the gender bent Macbeth and all that stuff, which not a bad idea, but the actual execution was not great. And this is kind of going to be like the interesting case study of franchise versus not franchise, because this came out at the same time as Mighty Ducks, which got the weekly drop, and it's very obvious which one Disney put their weight behind. And
I don't think they put a lot of weight behind.
No. And it was definitely, this was the series that desered to get the push.
They should have dropped this on weekly. They really should have done. It should have done. But it's just a little bit of a hidden gem of 2022.
I definitely enjoyed it. I'm sad we will probably not get season 3. It ended in a good spot, though. You know, it felt satisfying ending. You still get some stories out of it if they wanted to, but you're not left with this huge cliffhanger, if I remember correctly. So if I were going to pick Mighty Ducks or Big Shot to continue on to season 3, it would definitely be Big Shot, but I don't think that's what reality has in store for us.
No. So what was your next pick?
I have to reconsult my list because we've covered so many at this point. Let's see. Okay, we're going to move over to the UK for this one. We're going to talk about Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah, this is on my list as well. So this is
and I think that's a bit of a surprise for both of us, because neither of us are soccer/football fans at all. I played a little bit when I was a kid, but that's about the extent of it. I watched almost none of the World Cup, which wrapped up the week we're recording this, if not the week it's being dropped. But this really grabbed me. Welcome to Wrexham. And I was expecting it to just be a vanity project with these two guys talking about how great they are. We came in, we saved this poor little town that couldn't live without Hollywood. And There were a couple of aspects, but it was all tongue in cheek. It was really well done.
They've got
I was engaged.
they've got they're humble with it, aren't they? And I think that's the thing. They're obviously comedians, you know, they've got that comedy aspect. You know, they take it seriously when they need to, but they've got a lighter side to it. But they were humble with it. And, you know, again, I do not like soccer. You know, it's that kind of thing of why should I care about this one? But Ryan Reynolds was enough to pull it in. I really like Rob as well. I thought he came across really well. This was a really surprise for me. This was again like on the list, off the list, on the list. It's like, hold on, like I watched 18 episodes of this of a thing about something I don't even like. That has to show the power of this show. If that was, it completely ended up led for me like wrecking Save Our Squad, which is probably one of the worst series of the year, because this was so good. And that was the problem of it being like 2 weeks later. I was just like, yeah, you guys, this is way too close. You can't, you know, this was a really good show. And I love the fact as well of it was aimed at us that don't follow soccer. But it didn't make it feel like they were being, you know, they covered the basics and moved on quite quickly. Here's a, you know, and they made a bit of a joke about it and then they moved on. And I really enjoyed it. It was a really good, again, another FX show. I mean, I think like nearly half my swing is FX.
FX has been pumping out some incredible series over the years, and that's been true for a while. I remember back when Fargo season 1 came out and watching that. I mean, this is amazing, and things like that. But Welcome to Wrexham, I think they did a really good job of explaining why we should care. You know, that was one of the things that Saved Our Squad was missing, where other series are missing. It's not just about the football; it's about the town. That's why it's called Welcome to Wrexham, and not why it's called Welcome to whatever their squad's name is. I'm blanking on their name, but you know, it really does show. We lost Roger. He's gone. He's gone. But as you said, it does go to people like us who don't really care about soccer, and you can just go, oh, well, I don't care. But you can also apply it to any other sport. I don't care about American football. I don't care about basketball or something like that. Well, just because I don't care doesn't mean it doesn't have a huge impact on the community around it, particularly when we're talking about smaller squads like Wrexham, where it is ingrained in the community there, where you grow up and going and watching the game on the weekend with your folks is part of your life, right? And how important it is for that. So excellent job with this. This is a top tier documentary series.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that one. I also want to do a quick shout out actually to something else which I completely forgot about from last week's was Rise. Again, something with basketball didn't really connect with, but kind of had that same effect really as Welcome to Wrexham of making me care about something I didn't care about. So I wanted to raise that one up.
The thing with Rise was it wasn't really about the basketball. The basketball was the means by which these guys rose out of their situation, but the story was really about the family and doing their best to, you know, not get deported from Greece and things like that. It was a very good movie as well.
Okay, and my final one, which is The Orville. The third season was released on Disney Plus here in the UK as an original. It was on Hulu in the US. They then ended up shifting it over onto Disney Plus in the summer, and like one of their big like titles, which I think is an indication that it's cancelled. I think that's my gut reaction to this one at the minute, to get around the technical thing of it. What a show! This was like Star Trek. I mean, I only got into this series this year, so I have actually binged all 3 series this year. Loved it. 70 odd minute episodes full of special effects, not a lot of humor considering it's Seth. You know, it's not like Family Guy.
For season 3, yes. Yeah.
Season 1's a little bit more, he's playing around a bit, but a fantastic series. Just sight again is just like, it was refreshing. You know, it felt like watching Star Trek, but
up until Strange New Worlds came out, this was the best Star Trek show of the last 10 years or so, maybe longer. And it's not even Star Trek. Obviously, if you're going from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, there are tonal shifts between them. Season 1, they were definitely trying to find their feet. Season 2, they had an actual like story arc going through it. And then season 3 was just a serious story with occasional bits of humor poking through. And that was about it. But speaking for season 3 specifically, which is the one that came out this year, this is also on my list. New Horizons, excellent series. That it came out at the same time as Strange New Worlds just meant that if you were an old school Trekkie, there was a lot for you to enjoy this year. This is really good. I wish there was not that big tonal shift between seasons. I wish it kind of been more consistent. I think you may be right in regards to this being the last season, kind of a backdoor cancellation by shifting it over to Disney Plus. I hope that's wrong, though. I hope we get more of this. Having said that, let's move on from the Mocklin storyline. It has been the predominant storyline for 3 seasons. It's time for something new if you do get another season. Because when this was first announced, season 1, way back, it's just like, this is Family Guy in space, live action, and that is not what it was. This is actually Seth's kind of love letter to Star Trek, and it works really well.
Yeah, no, it just worked. And I even got my dad to watch it, and he's a huge Trekkie. I mean, I grew up on like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine every week, so that was when I grew up every night watching Star Trek kind of thing. So I think that's probably why I had this kind of like, it reminded me of that era. Because they would have a little joke and stuff around a bit, have a little bit of light-hearted bits here and there as well. Because it's hard to get, I think like Star Wars has never really had that space to do that.
Right. But this was what I liked about the Orville in particular was you had these situations that you'd see in the original series or the Next Generation, but also kind of like a wink at the camera of, this is kind of a little absurd, guys, isn't it? There's some weird stuff. It was just them having fun with it. And it didn't always hit. There were some episodes where you're just kind of like, you're stretching the joke a little too much. But overall, great series. Check it out on Disney Plus, especially if you love sci-fi or if you have been bemoaning the lack of good Star Trek shows over the last several years.
So that is our top 10 of each of us. Have you got one left?
No, I have one left.
Okay, carry on.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, because I can't remember if the release schedule has hit England yet, but this was Reservation Dogs, season 2.
No, it arrives, I think, next week in the UK. So I have not seen season 2 yet. I did watch most of season 1, but carry on with season 2.
I won't go too in depth on it, but season 1 was all about the heist, stealing the flaming hot Cheetos, or the near equivalent, because they couldn't use the brand. Season 2 was much more just slice of life on the reservation, and it was extremely well done. This is more just about how they are stuck there and how they can't get out, and really good view into what's going on the reservations, and so much comedy in it. It's got Taika's, he's not a writer on it, but it's got his style of comedy. So if you like things like What We Do in the Shadows or Our Flag Means Death, this is there as well. And it's got some good messaging in it. I really hope we continue on into season 3. We end on a little bit of a cliffhanger in season 2. It's not a huge, like, if we don't get season 3, I will be angry that we don't get the conclusion. But there is a little bit of we're moving forward into season 3. I think they have announced this season.
Yeah, they have. Season 3's been
okay. So
it's good. I mean, it's again, this is one of the problems with, especially now with Disney Plus, is sometimes, like some points in the summer, we were getting sometimes up to 10 different shows a week. So it's just realistically of if something didn't connect or you didn't have time, it's very easy to lose a series. There were so many shows this year that I've enjoyed watching, and actually trying to come down to the top 10 was very tricky, because I mean, I love the Kardashians. Big Sky, season 2 dropped right through the early part of the year. Season 3 just dropped this week here in the UK, and I've been enjoying watching the new season of Grey's Anatomy. It's been on Disney Plus over here. One series which really was like so touch and go for me, whether The Walking Dead season 11, loved it. It's been we had part 2 of the 11th season at the beginning of the year, and we've just finished the third part. I love that show, and I binged in the last 18 months. I've binged like 11 seasons of The Walking Dead. I love that show. I really fell in love with the brand. I need to go off and now find some of the offshoots. So I've really enjoyed that one. Other ones like Grownish. That was a great show. I'm currently making my way through season 5. They just dropped some new episodes recently. Another show I really liked was Reboot. I like a 19, like it was like a sitcom reboot of like a 90s show with like Johnny Knoxville. That was really good. I really enjoyed that show. That was good one. I'm just having a look here at some of the other things. I didn't. Abbott Elementary was earlier this year as well for us. That was good. How I Met Your Father was okay. That was okay on that one, but just in general, just an absolute incredible year for just it really shows that when you have, I mean, I forgot like Only Murders in the Building, season 3,
that was
season 2. It was not as good as season 1 for me.
Agreed.
It was good.
It was on my initial. It was one of the first ones I trimmed off. But season 1 was so much better. Season 2 they kind of reached a bit here and there, and they tried to one up themselves a little too much, and I kind of hope they dial it back for season 3. Another one. This wasn't even on the list, but I think it's worth mentioning was Love Victor season 3 came out this year.
Yeah.
Season 3 just was not up to par with the other ones. However, I still want to point it out because season 2 was so good, and this was overall a good series. And it's unfortunate that it became that poster child of the early Disney Plus, where like we can't put this on there, and then of course now it's on there, but. It didn't even make the list because season 3 just was not up to snuff. No. But I still want to draw attention to it because if you haven't watched it, particularly if you have a teenage kid who may be going through some similar issues, this is a really good series to check out.
Yeah, that one's good. I'm currently in the middle of the Patient as well, another FX series. And Reasonable Doubt. That's another drama series from the Octave Collective, which I'm about halfway through. It's like just. You know, so many shows, only so much time. I did Emilio show, that one popped up. I did enjoy that one. I thought that was good. I'm just trying to see what else we had. High School Musical was good. Solar Opposites was good. Light and Magic was really good. Pistol was a great show.
I read about the Sex Pistols, right? So
yeah.
And I think it says quite a bit because like last year when we were doing this, we were ranking like the list was basically just Marvel shows and The Mandalorian. And this year, we each had one Marvel show. I had 2 Star Wars shows. You had 1. And then the rest of the list is just everything else. Yeah. The series, Disney Plus, especially internationally, has really grown into, a wide range of things. It's getting there in the US. Obviously, it's hamstrung by, who controls Hulu and what they can do with the content and so on. So it's not entirely in Disney's control to be able to deal with that, but just seeing how much quality content is coming to Disney Plus every week, every month, and throughout the entire year. You go back 2 years and we were struggling to put together like top 3 lists because there just was not enough content.
It's another line like I could do a top 30 series list. That's how good it has been, and why it's actually been quite hard to keep up because and it's that kind of thing of like, and a show which for the trouble was as well was like if there was a show which I didn't like, it very much just quickly just became I just stopped watching it. There was just there was just along the lines of okay, like Mighty Ducks for me was a show which just was like, no, I just do not have the time for this. It's not. I could put it on in the background, but I really am not interested.
Right,
and
Whereas when season 1 was coming out, we're like, this is literally the only thing to watch this week. So we're going to keep up with the Mighty Ducks. And that's only Disney Plus. Other companies, I mean, this is not the HBO Max show or the Paramount Plus show or whatever, but they are putting out good content too. And if we are human, we're not just watching Disney Plus. We're watching other things on other networks as well.
For me, like Stranger Things season 4 this summer was amazing. That was fantastic. I want to start watching the Yellowstone
1923 with Harrison Ford, right?
Yeah, I want on there's a whole host of stuff that like you say, you got Jack Reacher was one of my favorite shows as well from Amazon this year, and House of the Dragon. Not being a Game of Thrones fan, I got it. I loved House of Dragon. Yeah, so like I said, we do watch other shows, but in some ways, actually, for me now, it gets to the point if they have to be really good in order for because of like, you know, I've only got limited time in the evening to watch stuff, and sometimes as well, it's like I've got to watch this, you know, I've got to watch this show or something like that. It is very interesting. It's kind of funny when I was comparing like my top movies of the year to some of my friends that are also, you know, like in the industry, and they're like this one. I'm like, oh, I've been focused so much on the Disney stuff. I only don't get to watch as much as the other things. But it's been an incredible year for shows. And I really, in some ways, the addition of all these Star originals and that's not including all the international shows and stuff. It actually shows you where like Disney, I can see what, you know, Disney can kind of trim a little bit. You know, we don't need, you know, when you've got all of those shows dropping in, like you say, you know, we did a top 10 list, and well, really, we could have done top 20 without even flinching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great from a streaming from our point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
Yeah, it's much different from the last couple of years.
Yeah, so let's just it's because we also mentioned before we head off a couple of worse ones. So I'm going to just throw out Mighty Ducks was one that I really didn't like. Save Our Squad was another one. I'm trying to think what other ones are there.
It's not done yet, so I'm not going to. It's not 100%, but National Treasure has been 100% a disappointment so far, and I honestly don't think after this past week's episode I will continue with the series.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't. You could call this Treasure Hunters: Edge of History, and it was just completely disconnected from it. But well, on that note, that's a look back at 2022. Next week I will be back where I'm going to be talking with Josh, and we're going to be talking about some of the other highlights and downloads of 2022 as well. And then we'll be back in a couple of weeks talking about looking forward at 2023. So on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Have a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.